The law is not your shield, it is your cage. My cage was 12 megatons of plasteel static and burnt ozone. I was an Adeptus Arbites officer. This was my beat. I thought I was judging the guilty. I didn't realize I was the one on trial. The shift begins, as it always does, with the click hiss. My Vox bead nestled in my ear, waking up. A rush of static, a mumbled status check from control, then silence. But it's never truly silent. Hab Block 47 Delta. Perpetual twilight courtesy of the smog-choked upper hive. The air tastes like a battery. Acidic rain hisses against the patrol car's armor glass. Each droplet a tiny infraction trying to erode the hull. I watch it. I count the rivulets. My partner Troy is already sipping his synth calf. The smell fills the cabin. Old sweat, burnt rations, and his bitter drink. He sighs. He always sighs. It's a sound of compromise. Kalen. Let's make the rounds. His voice is tired. Not the exhaustion of hard duty, but the weariness of apathy. It's a sickness. I check my shotgun. The Justicar. A beautiful, simple tool. The action is clean. The wood is polished dark. I rack the slide. A solid, definitive thump click. The sound of authority. Troy winces. He hates the noise. Good. We step out of the car. The air is thick. You don't breathe it. You chew it. Ozone. Wet rust. A million people breathing, sweating, decaying. Our bootfalls are heavy, rhythmic. Mine precise. His a half beat behind. Click, clack. Click, clack. An infraction in rhythm. The beat. The endless beat. We are the only light in this gloom. Our armor black and severe. The imperial aquila polished on my shoulder. The citizens see it. They part like oily water. Their eyes are down, as they should be. First stop the Vox relays. Hab stack C level 4. The panel is covered in grime and street runes. I wipe it clean with my gauntlet. Troy. Noted. Improper maintenance of Imperial comms. Infraction 44B. He sighs again, that wet, tired sound. Kalen, the relay works. Control got the check-in. It is not about function, Troy. It is about protocol. The grime is a foothold. A foothold for what? Dust for chaos. He just shakes his head. He scribbles on his data slate. He logs it as maintenance required. A lie. A soft, comfortable lie. I watch him. His armor is dull, scuffed. He hasn't cleaned the seals. I can see synth nutrient stains on his chest plate. From days ago. How can he enforce the Lex Imperialis, the divine word of the Emperor, when he cannot even maintain his own war gear? He is compromised. The hive has already infected him. We move on, down to the Gilder stalls, a river of pale faces. They barter, they shout, they live their small, messy lives. A gathering of no more than 6 workers is an unlawful assembly. I see 8. They are clustered around a stall selling recycled protein paste. They are laughing. That in itself is a disturbance. I place my hand on my shock maul. The hum is low, comforting. Disperse. By order of the Adeptus Arbites, my voice through the helmet vox is not my own. It is the law. It is cold. It is metal. It is absolute. The laughter dies. The workers scatter. All but one. He is slow, arrogant. He meets my gaze. A mistake, citizen. You have failed to disperse. We were just buying food. Proctor, you were assembled. You were slow. I write the infraction. Impeding an Arbites officer. Failure to obey. His face goes from pale to gray. This one small mark will follow him. It will cost him work chits. It may cost him his HAB license. He knows it. Please, the law is not concerned with your problems. It is concerned with your obedience. I hand him the slate. He takes it. He is judged. Troy is already halfway down the walkway. He didn't even stop. He's letting the decay spread. He thinks this is pragmatism. He calls it keeping the peace. He doesn't understand. There is no peace. There is only the law and the chaos that waits outside it. I clean my armor. Every night. After every shift. The tiny hab unit smells of solvents and blessed oils. I strip the plates. I polish the icons. I recite the tenets as I work. Tenet 1. The law is the only air worth breathing. Tenet 2. To question the law is to embrace heresy. I scrub the grime of the street from my boots, the filth of their contact. Tenet 3. Mercy is the refuge of the weak. The small metal-bound book of the Lex Imperialis is on my table. Its pages are sharp. It is my only companion. It is the only voice that speaks the truth. The click hiss of the Vox is silent for now, but I can still hear it. A low-level anxiety, the anticipation of the next shift, the knowledge that Troy will be there. A living infraction walking beside me. We pass a stall. A man is selling icons, twisted bits of metal polished into shapes. Some look like the Aquila. Some do not. Troy. Contraband. He looks. He squints. It's just scrap art Kalen. It's ugly, but it's not heretical. Ambiguity is the first tool of the heretic. Seize it. We seize his stall, he and his family starve. We get a riot. For what? Some bad art for the law. He waves his hand. Let it go. It's just synth nutrient stains. Let it go. He said that. He actually said that. About a potential icon of heresy. Stains lead to decay Troy. My voice is low. I can feel the helmet's rebreather misting. Decay leads to sedition. The law is clear. He stops. He turns to me. The rain hisses on his helmet. For a moment, I think he will argue. I think he will finally show his true compromised self. I want him to. I want the justification. Instead, he just sighs. That weak, wet sound. He keys his Vox. Block 47 clear. Moving to sub-level 3. He logged nothing. He saw nothing. He is blind. I logged 14 infractions that shift. Troy logged 2. I knew even then that only one of us was truly doing our job. The call came at the end of the shift. Always at the end. Disturbance. Hydraulics Plant 22. A foreman overdue on his status report. Troy hated it. It meant overtime. It meant paperwork. I felt nothing. The law is 24 hours. The beat is endless. Probably just a drunken Gilder Troy mumbled guiding the patrol car into the lift. Drunkenness is an infraction, I said. He didn't answer. He just let the machine sigh for him. The lift gates opened onto sub-level 12. The air changed. The ozone and rain of the upper block was gone. Down here, it was hot. Thick. It smelled of metallic oil and something else. Something sweet, like burnt sugar. The sound was wrong. There was no sound. Hydraulics. Plant 22 was a giant, a cathedral of industry. It should have been screaming. The thunder of the forge hammers, the hiss of the presses. But it was silent. The silence was a vacuum. It pulled at you. It felt louder than any machine. Troy. Secure the entrance. Vox for backup. Kalen, it's a missed report. We're not calling in the regiment for quiet. The quiet is the infraction. I stepped out. My Justicar was already in my hands. Troy followed his hand on his sidearm but not drawn. Weak. We entered the main press floor. The emergency lighting was on. A dull, sickly amber. The giant hydraulic presses were still. Mid-cycle. Frozen. And the workers. They were there, at their stations. Dozens of them. Just standing. They were unmoving, staring at their control panels. By the throne, Troy whispered. He stepped forward. Citizens, this is the Adeptus Arbites. Report your status. No response, not a flinch, not a blink. They just stood there. Their eyes were wide, too wide. I moved. My movements were rigid. Textbook, weapon high, checking sectors. They were breathing. I could see the fog of their breath in the amber light. They were alive, but they were not present. "This is not a labor dispute," I said, my Vox voice flat. "Kalen, lower your weapon." Troy was trying to sound calm. His voice was shaking. "This isn't aggression. This is sickness. A toxin, maybe. The vents. Sickness is a form of disorder." I raised my shotgun, aiming at the nearest worker. "Citizen, identify yourself. Step away from the console." He didn't move. He just stared at the dead screen. "Stand back, Troy." I was going to pacify him, a non-lethal round. The law required a response. This stillness was defiance. No, Kalen. Troy grabbed my arm. His gauntlet was hot, sweaty. "Look at them. They're not a threat. They're empty." His touch was an infraction. I shoved him off. "Do not touch me. Do not compromise procedure." And as I turned back to the worker, I saw it. On the control panel, where the worker's gaze was fixed, it was small, painted in fresh, glistening oil. A symbol, intricate, perfect. A spiral. It seemed to move, to pull my eye inward. I felt a coldness, not the cold of the street. This was a different cold. A cold inside my armor. A cold dread that the Lex Imperialis had no chapter for. My book didn't have a procedure for this. My training had no tenet for a symbol that looked back at you. My finger went to the trigger. My first true fear. It manifested as protocol, heresy, active. I was ready to purge the room. The book was clear on heresy. The sentence is always death. Troy, weapon free. Purge protocols. Kalen, stop. We don't know what it is I know. I centered the symbol in my sights. And then, click. A single Vox click. Not from my bead, not from Troy's. From the foreman's office high above the factory floor, a new voice, a calm, almost gentle voice. He sees it. Every worker on the floor, dozens of them, in perfect unison. Their heads turned, the sound of 50 necks cracking bone turning to look at me. Their eyes were still wide, still empty, but they were looking at me. They didn't move. They just watched. The voice from the office spoke again. "Purge them." The main lights didn't come on. The emergency lights went out. Darkness. Then a new light, deep red. The alarm. The thunderous clang of the factory door slamming shut, sealing us in. The silence was over. The sound that replaced it was 1,000 feet scraping on metal. Moving fast. They came from the darkness, not with weapons, with their hands. They scrambled over the machinery, their limbs moving at wrong angles. Their faces were still blank, their eyes still wide. But they were fast. Troy yelled, a high, thin sound. He fired his sidearm. The crack, crack, crack was sharp. It did nothing. The workers just absorbed the bullets. They didn't bleed. They just leaked. Thick black oil like the paint used for the symbol. "Kalen." "The door," he screamed. I did not move toward the door. I moved toward the threat. "The law requires a full response," I voxed. I raised the Justicar. I did not aim for a limb. I aimed for the center. "The sentence is death." Boom. The shotgun blast was a beautiful, righteous thunder in the red light. It hit the first worker. He didn't fly back. He burst. Like an overpressurized pipe, a spray of black oil and shredded synthweave. It worked. They were just flesh. Compromised, heretical flesh. Boom. Another one gone. Boom. I was the law. I was the judgment. I was the cleansing fire. They swarmed me. I used the butt of the shotgun. A precise strike to the temple infraction resisting. A boot to the knee infraction assaulting an officer. They didn't feel pain. They just broke. Their bodies were tools. Their master was the voice in the office. Troy was not fighting. He was panicking. He was swatting at them. He was trying to get to the door. He was thinking of survival, not victory. A worker, a massive brute from the forge press, grabbed him. Troy screamed. I saw the man's arm bend at a wrong angle. The snap of bone was louder than the gunfire. Troy status. My arm. It's... Oh, throne. Kalen. He was compromised. He was down. I turned. I fired 3 shells. Boom, 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 clearing a path. I grabbed his armor strap. I dragged him. He was heavy. A dead weight. His screams were an infraction. They were a tactical liability. Silence, I ordered. The law is in control. He just sobbed. We reached the door. The great metal slab. The controls were dark. They cut the power. Troy whimpered, cradling his ruined arm. They rerouted it, I corrected him. I looked at the panel. The spiral symbol was there. Freshly painted. It pulsed with the red alarm lights. Heresy, I said. I raised my shotgun. I didn't shoot the panel. I shot the mag lock 12 inches to the right. A blast of sparks. The door hissed and scraped open, just a crack. Light. Blue and white light from the hallway, the backup. We spilled out. I fell over Troy. The precinct squad rushed in. Flak armor, laser guns, shield walls. Proctor status. What is it? I got to my feet. I pointed into the darkness of the factory. Heresy. Active. Purge protocols. The squad leader looked at me, then at Troy sobbing on the floor. He nodded. They formed up. They went in. The sound of last fire, shouting, then... Silence. The same awful silence from before. The squad leader came back out 10 minutes later. His face was pale under his helmet's visor. Proctor, the plant is empty. Negative. It is full of hostiles. It's empty, sir. No bodies. No workers. No oil. I pushed past him. I walked onto the factory floor. The red lights were gone. The normal amber work lights were back. The presses were still. But the workers were gone. My shell casings were on the floor. The black, oily stains. Gone. As if they were never there. I walked to the control panel where I first saw the symbol. It was clean. No oil, no spiral. Just a clean metal panel. It was here, I said. The squad leader just looked at me, and the foreman. His office is empty, Proctor. No body. Nothing. Just a cold cup of cough. Troy was already being helped by medics. He wouldn't look at me. His eyes were fixed on his broken arm. The precinct station was loud. Troy was in the med bay under sedation. I was in the debriefing room. I was writing my report. I wrote it on the data slate. Every detail. The silence. The workers. The symbol. The spiral. The voice from the office. The fight. The oil. The disappearance. I drew the symbol from memory. It was easy. It was burned into my mind. I signed it. Proctor Kalen. I submitted it. My captain read it. He read it 3 times. He was sweating. He was a precinct man, a creature of tariffs and ration chits. This was not in his book. Kalen. Your report. It is accurate. Troy's report. He filed it an hour ago before the sedation. He called it an industrial riot. Worker agitation over quotas. He said you fired first. A lie. A pathetic, cowardly lie. He said his arm was broken when a machine press malfunctioned. The betrayal was cold. It was logical. He was weak. He was compromised. He was afraid. He hid from the truth. I looked at my captain. Patrolman Troy is mistaken. Or compromised. The door to the debriefing room opened. I didn't hear it. I felt it. The air pressure changed. The sound in the room died. 2 of them. Full carapace armor. Black. Polished to a mirror sheen. Not precinct men. Fortress proctors. They didn't look at my captain. They looked at me. They were judges. Patrolman Kalen. You will come with us. I was not put in a cell. I was put in a room. It was silver. Sterile. There was no grime, no rust. The air smelled of solvents and clean ozone. The interrogation room. There was a table, 2 chairs. I sat in one. I waited. I did not know how long. Time was different here. The only sound was a low electrical hum, the sound of pure, unadulterated law. The door opened. He was not a proctor. He was a judge. His armor was ancient. His face was a mask of scars and augmetics. He sat opposite me. He placed a data slate on the table. My report. He said nothing. The silence was a weight, heavier than the hive. I did not move. I did not speak. I met his gaze, his one augmetic blue glowing eye. Patrolman Troy's report states worker agitation, the judge said. His voice was a Vox recording of gravel. Yours mentions heresy. Patrolman Troy is compromised, I said. My voice did not shake. His report is a lie. The judge stared at me. The hum of the room was the only sound. He was testing me. I would not fail. He is afraid of the truth. I am not. The judge leaned forward. The blue eye focused, the lens clicking. Describe the symbol again. Do not fail. I described it. The curves, the lines, the way it pulled the eye, the way it felt. Cold. He listened. He didn't dismiss me. He just stared. When I was finished, he nodded. Once, a small, precise movement. Your partner is contaminated, the proctor said. He will be cleansed. A pause. And you have potential. He stood. Your name is an infraction. Your service record is a lie. The street has infected you, but you have not. Rotted. He turned. Report to the Scola. You are Cadet 734. A door slid open. I was stripped of my badge. I was stripped of my name. And I was saved. The name Kalen was an infraction. I left it in the silver room. I walked out a number. 734. The fortress precinct was not a building. It was a mountain carved from the inside. A brutalist, windowless nightmare of granite and steel. The Scola Progenium was its heart, and we were the new blood about to be broken down and reformed. There were 50 of us, pulled from patrols like me, orphans from the deep hives, failed guardsmen eyes still wide with shell shock. We were the flawed, the recruits. They brought us into a vast cold hall. The air smelled of industrial soap and sweat and fear. A thick, heavy stench. CAD 734. Proceed. The voice was a machine. A proctor disrolled a black polished visor read my new name from a slate. I stepped onto a platform. The shears came down. My hair, the last piece of the street, fell away. The bist of the clippers was the only sound over and over. 50 times. 50 shaved heads. 50 sets of staring, terrified eyes. I did not look at them. I looked at the wall. It was pure gray granite. It was beautiful. They gave us black fatigues, stiff with dye. They smelled of the factory that made them, and nothing else. They gave us boots. They gave us a small metal-bound book, the Lex Imperialis. I held it. It was heavy, solid. It was the only thing I needed. You are not men, the Vox voice boomed from unseen speakers. It was everywhere. You are not women. You are cadets. You are potential. You are nothing. The regime was designed to break us. I see that now. It was a tool. A press like the ones in the factory. But it wasn't shaping metal. It was shaping souls. 4 hours of sleep on a cold metal slab. The wake-up call was a klaxon that felt like a drill in your skull. Cold rations. A gray nutrient paste. It tasted of nothing. It was fuel, not food. And the recitations. 20 hours a day. The law. We marched. Our new boots thud, thud, thud in perfect forced unison. We stood. For hours. At attention. Until our legs turned to static. And we recited. The faceless proctors paced, their armor a constant low whir. What is the penalty for sedition, the Vox would demand. And 50 voices, ragged, terrified, would shout back, "Death, what is the penalty for failure? Death." The others, they broke. It was fast. The girl from the guard regiment, 419, she cried in her sleep. The proctor was there, a jolt from a shock maul. She didn't cry again. The boy from the deep hive, 71. He questioned an order. He asked, "Why?" I did not see him again. The law is not concerned with why. Why is an infraction. I did not break. I excelled. This was not the street. This was not Troy, sighing, compromising, decaying. This was pure. The rules were clear. The lines were absolute. There was no ambiguity. There was only the law. The cold, perfect, beautiful law. I found comfort in the rigidity. I found faith in the concrete walls. My name is not Kylan. My name is 734. My name is my infraction. My number is my penance. The Vox voice said that, and I understood. I was not a man. I was a flaw being corrected. I read my metal-bound book every night, in the 4 hours of sleep. I held it to my chest. I absorbed the words. The others, they clutched icons. They whispered names of loved ones. They were weak. They were still attached to the messy, chaotic world. I was not. I had seen the spiral. This was the answer. They told us most of us would die here, in the training, in the tests. They said the fortress consumes the weak and forges the strong. I looked at the granite wall sweeping up into the man-made darkness. I felt the pure, cold law washing over me. And for the first time in my life, I felt safe. The physical training was simple. It was just breaking the body. The second phase was different. It was not in the drill hall. It was in a chair. The room was dark. The only light came from flickering data screens. The chair was cold. Metal. It had straps. For the wrists, the ankles, the head. They strapped us in. A spider of wires and dull, coppery metal hung from the ceiling. The data loom. This was not learning. This was implantation. This was not reading. This was psychological reforging. They called it doctrinal training. The click hiss of my old life was a distant memory. It was replaced by the instructor's voice, not from a speaker, from inside my head. The loom attached to the data port at the base of my skull. A cold jolt, and the voice began. 20 hours a day, reciting the Lex Imperialis, thousands of tenets, tens of thousands of case files, a galaxy of penalties. The law was an ocean, and we were being drowned in it. Failure was not an option. It was an infraction. Failure to recite a passage perfectly. Failure to quote the exact penalty for a specific crime. It was met by the proctors. They walked the aisles between the chairs. They carried the pain glove, a black, gauntleted fist humming with a low blue light. It was not a weapon. It was a tool of correction. It smelled of burnt copper and ozone. When it was used, it smelled of burnt skin. Cadet 412, the girl from the failed guard regiment. She was strapped in the chair next to me. The instructor's voice paused, then focused. Cadet 412. Tenet 341.bb. Failure to meet manufactorum quota. I could hear her breathing, a wet, terrified sound. She hesitated. 10 years. Penal Legion. Her voice was a whisper, a guess, weakness. The proctor at the end of the aisle turned. He didn't rush. He stood over her. The pain glove rose, the thump of the impact. Her scream was sharp, then cut off as the electrical charge found her. She washed out. Two servitors, their arms humming, unstrapped her. They dragged her away. She was a flaw. She was removed. My mind was different. It was already rigid. The street had made me hate ambiguity. The Scola was purifying me. I did not fight the data. I did not fear the pain. I welcomed the information. It flowed into me. The logic. The pure, cold, unforgiving logic. I saw the beauty in it. While others saw rules, I saw a perfect, unassailable fortress. The instructor's voice turned to me. Cadet 734. The answer. I did not hesitate. The information was there. A direct line from the Lex to my tongue. Summary execution of the foreman. Decimation of the work crew. Re-sanctification of the machinery. Sir. Silence. The proctor walking the aisle paused. He looked at me. His black visor reflected the flickering data screens. He nodded. Once. He moved on. I felt nothing. No, that's a lie. I felt pride. A cold, sharp, clean pride. I was the law. I began to correct the others. Before the pain glove fell, I would speak the correct tenet. I volunteered to recite. The others looked at me with hatred. Hatred is an infraction. It is a weakness. I ignored them. The pain from the loom was constant. A dull ache that became a symphony of agony. Flickering data screens. The rhythmic thud of a cadet's head hitting the shock pad over and over as he failed. The constant low hum of the machines. The smell of burnt copper and sweat. My eyes were wide, absorbing the light, absorbing the law. The pain was secondary. The only thing that mattered was the truth. And the truth was, the sentence is always death. The data looms retracted, the straps released. A new door slid open. The armory. The chair released us. The law was in our heads. Now we had to become the law with our hands. They took us to a place they called the simulacra. It was not a room. It was a sector. A kilometers-wide simulation of a hive block built deep inside the fortress. The ceiling was a black void projectors casting the same sick amber twilight I remembered from the street. The air smelled wrong. It smelled of stun gas, old sweat, and recycled plasteel. This was the maze. They gave us armor, not the full carapace. Basic flak armor. Black. It felt light, flimsy. They gave us shields, plasteel, heavy. And they gave us the shock maul. It was a simple, brutal tool. A weighted head humming with corrective energy. The thud of it hitting a plasteel shield was a new kind of rhythm. A new kind of recitation. We were Squad 7. 10 of us. 10 numbers, in black flak, standing in a perfect rigid line. The great door hissed open. Proceed, Squad 7. The instructor's vox boomed from the void. Your objective, subdue the disturbance. Pacify the rioters. Enforce the law. We marched. Clack, clack, clack. Our shields interlocked. Our mauls high. The textbook formation. Tenet, Ato Bauhord, the wall of law. The rioters were waiting. Holograms flickered, projecting crowds of shouting citizens. They threw simulated rocks that sparked against our shields. Then the real targets, servitors. Hulking, clumsy things, their arms replaced with pistons. And prisoners. Chastened hab workers given padded clubs and promised extra rations. They were pathetic. They screamed. They charged. They were chaos. The instructor's voice was in our ears. Advance. Form the wedge. Pacify. We advanced. The first servitor hit my shield. The clang was immense. It jolted my arm. I struck. The shock maul hit its chest. A blue flash. The zit of the charge. The servitor stopped. It stood twitching and fell. Pacified. No remorse. No hesitation. Just efficiency. The weight of the armor was real. The sweat real. The adrenaline a cold, clean burn. This was better than the street. On the street, Troy hesitated. Here, hesitation was an infraction. Here, the targets were clear. The law was clear. We were a wall. Clack, clack, thud. Shield. Maul. Clack, clack, thud. The rhythm of judgment. The maze changed. Walls slid. Steam hissed from grates. The instructor was testing us. A simulated explosion. Darkness. The squad broke. Cadet 550 tripped. Cadet 212 turned the wrong way. Panic. The formation was broken. We were compromised. Squad 7, you are compromised, the Vox crackled. Infraction breaking formation. The prisoners saw it. The chaos saw the gap. They swarmed us. The others. They were flailing. They were fighting for their lives. I was not. I was enforcing the law. I saw the logic, the tactical layout. The enemy was a tide. I just had to change the channel. Squad 7. To me, Formation Delta, I shouted. My voice, not the instructors. They listened. They were afraid. I was not. They fell in around me. Negative, I voxed to the instructor. I heard 212 gasp. You do not talk back to the Vox. We are not compromised. We are repositioning to establish interlocking fields of fire. Tenet 881, the pincer of justice. Silence. The prisoners were charging us down a narrow alley. A fatal funnel. A textbook ambush. Their mistake. Hold, I commanded. They came. Now. We struck. 10 mauls as one. A wall of blue light. A symphony of Zeist? The hallway was filled with pacified bodies. The simulation was clean. The silence returned. Then the Vox. Proceed 734. The law approves. We moved through the rest of the maze. I was not Cadet 734. I was Squad Leader 734. I used the textbook, flanking maneuvers, suppression tactics, brutal non-lethal, and lethal. Takedowns. The holograms flickered and died. The servitors were piled high. The prisoners. They begged for us to stop. Mercy is an infraction. The simulation ended. The great doors opened. We marched out. We were covered in sweat-simulated blood and the ozone stench of the mauls. We were not tired. We were focused. I felt a cold satisfaction. They taught us to be a wall. I learned to be a hammer. Because a wall just stands there. A hammer judges. The maze was practice. This was the test. They called it the verdict. They took me from the squad, alone, to a new room, cold. The air hummed. My armor was waiting, not the flak vest. Full carapace armor, black, segmented, polished. It smelled of fresh machine oil and blessed sealant. It was not armor, it was a new skin, a shell. Servitors dressed me, their cold metal hands clicking on the buckles. The weight was comforting, heavy, absolute. I was sealed inside. My breathing was the only sound. A slow, rhythmic hiss click from the rebreather. It was my own personal Vox beat. They handed me the Justicar, my shotgun. It felt right. It was balanced. The weight was familiar, like an extension of my arm. The rounds are non-lethal Cadet the Proctor instructor voxed. Stun shells, pacification. Do not damage the scenario. He chained the book of law to my belt, the metal-bound copy. It was no longer just a book. It was my badge of office. The test chamber is active. Enforce the law. Fail, and you will be judged. The door hissed open. It was a perfect replica of a HAB unit. The same grime, the same flickering light tube. It smelled of the street. Old rations sweat despair. I hated it. It was a cage, a man and a woman, arguing. They were actors. Their movements were too broad. You stole the chits, she screamed. She had a knife, a small rust-pitted blade. It was my share, he yelled back. He was backing away. Domestic dispute, infraction, sabi bevandat be, a simple, messy, human problem. The woman lunged. I moved. The armor was fast, faster than I thought. The law is fast. I stepped between them. I did not raise the shotgun. I raised my hand. Cease. My voice. The helmet vox made it the voice of the fortress. Cold, hard. They stopped. They looked at me. The black mirrored visor of my helmet. They saw nothing. They saw the law. The woman was trembling. Silence. You are charged. Infraction assault with a deadly weapon. Infraction public disturbance. I turned to the man. You are charged. Infraction public disturbance. You will. The man's face flickered. The hologram changed. He was gone. A new actor was in his place. The light tube hissed. He was wearing the stained, scuffed uniform of a precinct patrolman. His arm was in a sling. His face. I knew that face. The weakness. The compromise. The sigh. It was Troy. He looked broken. He looked at me. His eyes were wide. Not with fear. With hope. Kalen, thank the Emperor. You gotta help me. My name. He spoke my infraction. The test. This was the real test. Kalen. It's in my head. The symbol. From the factory. He stumbled forward. It's in my head. I can't stop seeing it. He was reaching for me. His hand outstretched. Pleading. It's beautiful. Kalen. It's please. Help me. I analyzed him. My mind was the Lex. It was fast. It was clean. He was no longer Troy. He was a list of charges. I raised the Justicar. The thump click of the action was the only sound. He froze. Infraction, unlawful assembly, I said. My voice was calm. Infraction, blasphemy. The symbol is heresy. No, Kalen, wait. It's me. It's Troy. Infraction resisting arrest. Infraction corrupting an Arbites officer. He was crying. The tears were a weakness. A flaw. The sentence is death. No, Kalen, wait. I fired. The boom filled the small room. The recoil was solid. Righteous. The actor, Troy, was thrown back. He hit the wall and slid down. He didn't get up. The stun shell. It wasn't a stun shell. The test was over. The simulation ended. The walls of the HAB unit rose, retracting into the ceiling. We were in the center of a vast, dark chamber. Me and the body. The side door opened. The proctor judge. The same one from the silver room. He walked toward me. His augmetic eye glowed blue in the gloom. He looked at the body. He looked at me. He held something in his gauntlet. He stopped in front of me. He held out his hand. In his palm, a single polished shotgun shell, brass and red. That one was live Proctor Kalen. He dropped it into my hand. It was warm. Welcome to the law. They gave me the name back. Proctor Kalen. It was not a name. It was a rank. A tool. They gave me the street back. HAB Block 47 Delta, my old beat. I stepped out of the fortress. The hive air hit my armor. The same acidic rain. The same taste of a dead battery. I hated it. But now I was not part of it. I was the cure. I was assigned to a riot control squad. We did not ride in patrol cars. We rode in a repressor, a black armored slab of plasteel. The local patrolmen, the ones who were once my peers, they did not meet my eyes. They shuffled. They looked at the floor. They feared me. They saw the black carapace armor. They saw the fortress. That was the proper order of things. Fear is the beginning of obedience. My new partner was not a man. It was an Ugrin. They called him Block, a mountain of flesh, muscle, and simple faith. He wore armor plates that looked like they belonged on a tank. He carried a shock maul the size of my body. He looked at me with small, stupid, loyal eyes. The proctors had given him one order: follow 734. He was a perfect partner. No size, no compromise, just obedience. We walked the beat, my old beat. My bootfalls were heavy now, the thud of my carapace armor on the metal grating. The ground shook. Block steps were thunder. Thud. 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 The citizens. They did not part like oily water. They fled. They slammed their doors. They hid in the shadows. The law was walking, and it was loud. The click hiss of the Vox was no longer a distant check-in. It was my commands. Block. This stall. It is unsanctioned. I was pointing at a gilder selling synth nutrient paste. The same stall Troy and I had passed. The same stall where I had written a ticket. I was so weak then. The gilder looked at me, his face collapsing in terror. Please, Proctor. It's just one hymn slightly off key. Wait. No. That was a different stall. He was just selling. Please, Proctor. I have a permit. Your permit is expired by 40 minutes. I saw his data slate. The infraction is waste. The sentence is seizure. He fell to his knees. No. Please, my family. I looked at him. I felt nothing. His family was not my concern. The law was my concern. Block. Seize the contraband. The Ogren stepped forward. He did not argue. He did not sigh. He raised his massive gauntlet. He brought it down. The sound of smashing plasteel and exploding paste. The stall was gone. The man was silent. Just a high, thin whimpering. Disperse, I said to the shadows, or be judged. We moved on. I saw the same infractions as before, the same grime, the same decay. But I was not writing tickets. I was not compromising. I saw a Vox set humming in an alcove, broadcasting an unsanctioned channel. I didn't call it in. I raised my Justicar. I fired. The blast was deafening. The Vox set vanished in a cloud of sparks and plastic. Judgment. I saw a gathering of workers, more than 6. They were not laughing. They were quiet, conspiring. Block. Disperse. The Ogren charged. His roar was impressive. He didn't even use his maul. He just ran through them. They scattered. The law was efficient. My old home. Hab Block 40s and Delta. I felt nothing. No nostalgia. No memory. It was a sickness. I was there to purge the sickness I had allowed to fester when I was weak. When I was Kalen. I am Proctor Kalen. The smell of ozone from my own armor felt clean now. It was the smell of authority. The smell of the law. The street. It was just a cage. And I was the keeper. We reached the end of the patrol zone. The entrance to the sublevels. The entrance to Hydraulics Plant 22. It was sealed. A heavy plasteel barrier stamped with the Aquila. Contaminated, the sign read. I stood there. I looked at the seal. I remembered the spiral. I remembered Troy's face in the test chamber. He was weak. He was flawed. He needed to be judged. And I had judged him. Proctor Block's voice rumbled. It was like gravel. Stop. We hold, I said. We watch. The law does not rest. It just waits. For the next infraction. The click hiss of my Vox bead crackled. Not my voice. Control. All units. Riot. Active. Hab Block 47. I looked at Block. Sector. Hydraulics Plant 22. The seal is broken. My hand went to my Justicar. It was time. The seal was not just broken. It was gone. Melted into a slag heap. The air that came from the opening. It was not the air of the hive. It was the air from the factory. That thick, sweet smell of burnt sugar and metallic oil. And something new. Promethium. Proctor. Orders. Block rumbled. I looked at the black opening. The law requires entry. Squad form up the squad leader. A veteran named Rex shouted. His voice was tight. He was afraid. Good. Fear sharpens obedience. Our repressor was the first on scene. The locals, they were gone. The entire block was silent. A vacuum, just like before. We entered. 10 of us. A full riot control squad. Shield wall, just like the maze. The amber emergency lights were on, but the factory was different. The machines were not just still. They were changed. Twisted metal, cables like vines, and the symbols. The spiral. It was everywhere. Painted on the walls in that same black, glistening oil. on the floor, on the ceilings. It was a defilement. This was not a riot. This was an insurrection. Hold the line, Rex voxed. His voice was a whisper. Wait for... Negative, I said. The word cut through the comms. Rex turned his visor, reflecting the spiral on the wall. Proctor, I am Squad, and I am the law. The law does not wait. I stepped past him, past the shield wall, into the open. I was testing them. I was testing the silence. It broke. A shot. The snap hiss of a last bolt. It struck my chest plate. A flash of green. The smell of burnt copper. The force, it was nothing. It was a gnat hitting plasteel. I didn't flinch. I didn't even stop walking. I raised my Justicar. I scanned the darkness. Contact, I said. Upper gantry. Light them up, Rex screamed, his fear turning to rage. The squad's shoulder lamps flooded the factory. They were there, the spiral-eyed. They were not workers, not anymore. Their flesh was wrong, lumpy. Their eyes were wide, just as I remembered. But now they were armed. Autoguns, rusted cleavers, and strange pulsing energy weapons. They chanted, a low dissonant song that hurt my ears. This was not chaos. This was a different, terrible order. Fire advance. Fire advance, I commanded. This was not the maze. This was real. This was the test. The squad's laser guns cracked, red lines of light stitching the darkness. The cultists, they came. They scrambled down the walls. They charged. They had no fear. I felt anger. A cold, pure, righteous fury. They were defiling the law. They were an imperfection. A stain. A cultist charged me. He was fast. He had a cleaver raised. The spiral was painted on his face. His eyes? I saw his eyes. They were empty. He was a shell like the workers. He screamed a word. A name. I didn't care. I raised my Justicar. I aimed. I judged. Death boom. The kick of the live round. It was beautiful. It was a fist of the Emperor. It felt righteous. The cultist vanished. He did not burst. He was erased. A red mist where a man had been. This was judgment. This was the law made manifest. My training was over. My service had begun. Squad leader. You are compromised, I shouted. Rex was down, clutching his leg. A last bolt. Negative. We attack suppression fire section 2, section 1 with me. The squad, they were trained in the Schola. They obeyed the rank. They obeyed me. We moved. The shield wall was a plow. The shotguns were the thunder. Boom! Boom! With every blast, a stain was cleansed. With every kick, the law was affirmed. I took shrapnel. A piece of an exploding console. It gashed my gauntlet. My blood, red and human, dripped onto the metal-bound book at my waist. The Book of Law. It was stained. It was consecrated. They bled. They died. And in the chaos, I saw the beautiful, simple logic of the law. They were the infraction. We were the sentence. It was all so clear. We reached the foreman's office. The door was open. The chanting was louder. But the factory was on fire. The promethium-laced oil, it was burning. The battle was won. The factory was lost. And the war had just begun. The factory was a beacon. The infection, it spread. The Arbites' response was logical. They sealed Hab Block 47. Heavy plasteel blast doors slammed shut. Containment. The block was no longer a beat. It was a war zone. My squad wasn't a patrol. We were an occupying force. And the weeks, they just ended. They blurred into one long gray shift. The grind. This was not a war of glorious charges. It was a war of attrition. A war of rust and damp and sudden quiet death. Snipers hidden in the hab stacks. Booby traps laid in the walkways. ambushes in the dark. The spiral-eyed were ghosts. They were the grime given a gun. We lost cadets. We lost 411 to a trip mine. We lost 802 to a sniper's round. We lost Rex, the squad leader. A rusted spike from a floor grate. He bled out. He was an infraction. Poor equipment maintenance. The Vox crackled. Rex is gone control. 734, assuming command. Acknowledged Proctor Sergeant Kalin. Proceed. That was it. A new rank. A new function. The machine just continued. I stopped sleeping. Sleep was an inefficient use of time. I just reloaded. I cleaned my shotgun. I recited the Lex, and I moved to the next firefight. My carapace armor was no longer black. It was a map of the war, scarred by last fire, caked in soot and dried oil and blood. The polished sheen was gone. The law was becoming part of the landscape. It was adapting. We were assigned a squad of guardsmen. They were not from the Skola. They were weak, terrified. They were messy. We were clearing a hab tower, level by level. The silence was thick. A single distant gunshot. One of the guardsmen, he broke. He dropped his laser gun. He sat down. No more, he whispered. No more. I can't. He was crying. My squad, my Arbites. We just watched. I stepped over to him. Citizen, pick up your weapon. I can't. Please. Just leave me. Or kill me. I looked at him. This was simple. Tenet 4401 sink. Desertion in the face of the enemy. His eyes went wide. No, please. I'm not. I'm just... The penalty is death. He begged. He sobbed. He was a child. It didn't matter. He was an infraction. I raised my sidearm. I judged him. The crack was small in the large room. I felt nothing. The law was satisfied. I holstered my weapon. The rest of you, proceed. They proceeded. The click hiss of the Vox was different now. It wasn't a clean signal. It was static. And screams. A constant low-level noise. My book of law. The metal-bound copy at my waist. It was black, caked in grime. The pages, they were fused together by the heat of a promethium blast. I couldn't read it. It didn't matter. I didn't need to. I was the book. We were in a ruined hab. The drip of water, the crackle of a fire somewhere. Cadet 338 was leaning against a wall. His leg was gone. Below the knee. Sarge, Proctor, I can't. My leg, he was compromised. The law does not recognize your leg, citizen. Please, don't leave me. Hold this position or be judged. I looked at him. He was a flaw. I keyed my Vox. Sector 4 secure, moving on. We moved on. I don't remember their names, the living or the dead. They were just numbers. They were just infractions. Temporary, messy human infractions. And I was the eraser. The Vox crackled. A clean signal for the first time in weeks. It was the fortress. Proctor Sergeant. We have found them. The source. The stronghold. My hand went to my shotgun. It was time for the final judgment. The stronghold was not a fortress. It was a cathedral. Or it had been. A rusted Gothic skeleton at the block's dead center. The smell. It was thick. The burnt sugar and ozone from the factory, but stronger. It was the smell of worship. Squad I voxed. Breach and cleanse. The laws upon them. Block my auger and hit the main door. He was the breaching charge. The ancient wood turned to splinters. We entered. It was a slaughter. The chant I had heard in the factory, it was deafening here. 100 voices, 1,000, all singing that same wrong note. The spiral-eyed. They were changed. The ones in the factory were just infected. These were mutated. Flesh twisted into new shapes, extra limbs, eyes, too many eyes. They charged. We judged. The air filled with promethium las fire and the boom of my shotgun. This was not a fight. This was extermination. I was efficient. Boom. Infraction. Boom. Infraction. Boom. Infraction. I moved through the chaos, a black rock in a red tide. I felt the purity of the purpose. The law was a fire, and this was the cleansing. I reached the altar. It was not made of stone. It was scrap, twisted pipes, broken machinery, all coiled, like the symbol. And on the altar he was there. The leader, the voice from the factory, the source of the infraction. It was Troy, my old partner. He was not a man. He was fused to the scrap, wires and pipes. They were in his flesh. They snaked from his arms, his chest. His face was pale. But his eyes were the spiral, and carved onto his chest the symbol. He was the heresy. He recognized me. He turned his head. The sound of grinding. Kalen. His voice. It was his voice, but distorted, like a Vox signal breaking up. It's beautiful. He looked at the slaughter, at my squad, purging his followers. The logic. The spiral. It's pure. He looked at me. The spirals in his eyes. Spun. End this. Kalen. Please. He was begging me for death. This was it. The test. The true verdict. Not a simulation. Not a guardsman. This was the source. My hand on the Justicar. I raised it. I centered the sights, right between his spinning spiral eyes. My finger on the trigger. He smiled. A broken, leaking smile. He wanted this. He wanted mercy. I felt something. A flicker. A tiny cold. Doubt pity. It was an infraction. An internal infraction. He was weak. He was a flaw. He was asking me for a human response. The law is not human. I looked at him. This thing, that was my friend. I lowered the shotgun. His smile faded. Confusion. Fear. The sentence is cleansing, I said. My voice was flat. He didn't understand. I didn't shoot. I turned. I nodded. To the flamer unit. Cadet 220. He was very thorough. Proctor, he asked. Purge the heretic I commanded. Purge the structure. Purge it all. I turned my back. I started to walk away. The roar of the flamers. Troy's scream. It was not human. It was just static. It was cut short. I walked out of the cathedral. My reflection was in my helmet's visor. A black, empty skull. The flames reflected in the curve. I did not grant him the mercy of my shot. I granted him the purity of the law. The law is fire. Dawn. The hive has a dawn. A gray wounded light. It cut through the smoke. Ash was falling, like snow. It coated the ruins of Hab Block 47. It coated me. I was standing alone in the rubble of the cathedral. My squad was gone. Block was gone. Dead. Or reassigned. Doesn't matter. The block was pacified. Was utterly silent. No chanting, no gunfire, no screams, no machines, no wind, no people. The law had been enforced. The order was absolute. A graveyard. A clean, sterile graveyard. The smell. Cold ash and ozone. The fire was out. The purity was complete. I stood there. I don't know for how long. Time had ended. My armor was heavy, caked in. Everything. The ash, it was gray. It covered the black. My hand. I looked at my gauntlet, still stained. I looked at the book of law still chained to my waist. My blood. Troy's. Oil. The ash. It was a lump. An unreadable fused mass of infraction. I tried to open it. My gauntlet. Clumsy. The pages were fused together by the heat. The law. was sealed. It was finished. My vox, the click hiss. It was loud. In the silence, it was the only sound in the universe. A voice. Clean. No static. From the fortress. Report Proctor Kalen. It was the judge. The one from the silver room. I should respond. Protocol. I opened my mouth. I tried to speak. Sector. The word. It wouldn't come out. My throat was... It was just... ash. I tried again. Nothing. I had no words. I had no report. The law was complete. What was there to say? Proctor Kalen. Acknowledge. What is your status? The voice was sharp, an order, an infraction to be silent. I looked at the ruins of my beat, the ruins of everything. I was the perfect Arbites. I had not compromised. I had not failed. I had won. I was the instrument, and the music had stopped. I was empty. I was the static. Kalen report. The name. My infraction. He was angry. The law was angry. I raised my hand, slowly, to my helmet. I keyed the vox, my thumb, on the switch. I held it down. I breathed. The hiss click of my rebreather. That was my report. Click, hiss. Click, hiss. The only sound. Then, a whisper. My voice. Nominal. Weather. Clear. The law was pure. The block was clean. I had won. So why was the only sound the static?